Good evening. Welcome to the February 4th, 2025 City Council meeting. I hereby call the meeting to order. Members of the public may attend the City Council meeting in person or may watch and listen remotely by viewing the meeting on Channel 8 WCTV and at the city's website at www.wayzata.org/WCTV. Public comment during the public forum and/or public hearing portions of the meeting may be provided in person at the meeting in advance or by logging into Teams online meeting and raising your hand during the public hearing. When your name is called in the meeting, you will be seen and heard in our council chambers and the cable channel, and you'll be asked to unmute, and then you begin your comments. All public comments must include your full name and address. Next, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. If I could ask everyone to stand if you are able and follow along.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is our roll call, and let the record note that all council members are present. I will also note that earlier this evening, the council participated in a workshop and reviewed and discussed the following: discussion of public safety priorities for our downtown initiatives and communications for those initiatives. Our second agenda item for this evening's workshop was discussion of council priorities for 2025 and an update by staff on progress towards our city strategic plan. The next item on our agenda is to approve the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda, or does anyone want to make any changes?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. Next on the item is the public forum. The public forum, for a reminder, is for those members of the public in attendance tonight and are interested in speaking. We ask when your name is called to please approach the podium, state your name, address, and indicate if you're representing a group, and limit your comments, if you can, to 3 minutes. If the item you wish to speak about is on the agenda, for those who are in person, please fill out a form and offer it to staff. And then for those who are watching on Teams online, please send a note via chat to staff and let them know that your agenda item you wish to speak about. And then once you are called upon, we require you to turn on your camera when you speak. We're going to do 2 items on the public forum, and I think we have a couple of citizens that are wanting to speak. So the first item on our public forum is the introduction of Tyler Basil, Public Works Technician. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to ask our Public Works Director and City Engineer, Mike Kelly, to go. I don't know if you're planning on going up to the podium or not, but he's going to introduce Mr. Basil, our newest employee down at Public Works. He's been a great addition, a great fit to a position that Director Kelly had to get creative in, tweaked it a little bit, and we're super happy that we found Mr. Basil.
Thank you, Jeff. Mr. Mayor, City Council, we always appreciate the opportunity to introduce our new employees, and tonight we're pleased to introduce Tyler Basil, our Public Works Technician. I'm going to ask him to go stand up in front of the podium, and I'm not joining him because the hot seat gets pretty hot over there, and we've been prepping him for weeks for this. Tyler joined our team on October 21st of last year. He came to us from the private world, a little bit different. As Jeff mentioned, we went through a couple of years of trying to find what we were hoping was going to be an engineering technician. And engineering technician always led to very unexperienced or someone that wanted to take a position we already have in our Assistant City Engineer, Jen Schumann, who has also joined us tonight. And that's not what we were looking for. So we had to get creative, as Jeff mentioned. Tyler comes to us from some past private experience. He worked at Danfoss Power Solutions as a supply chain specialist, and before that, John Deere as a materials coordinator. Before that, where we grabbed him from and why we were most interested in him, he had about 4 years of seasonal experience with the city of Forest Lake. And some things that stood out to us These are his words, not mine. I'm a quick learner. I'm organized. I'm self-motivated. I'm detail-oriented. He is exactly all of those things. Done very well. He's fit in extremely well with our team out at Public Works and with Jen and the engineering department. A couple things that stand out. Wasn't a GIS guy. He's slowly becoming a GIS guy, which is great. And our permitting process can be confusing, but he's jumped in head first with that as well. So with that, please help me welcome Tyler Basil.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and council, it's a pleasure to meet you all. Thank you for the time tonight. Like Mike said, Tyler Basil. Right now I'm living in Corcoran, Minnesota. The new public works technician. Been with the city for a few months now, since October. I enjoy coming to work every day. The staff at the city is amazing and very, very easy to work with, and it's been a pleasure to learn a lot and use my skills to help the city with this new position. And yeah, I'm an open book, so if you guys have any questions, I'm willing to answer.
Welcome, Tyler. Any comments or questions from the council?
I got one.
Okay.
What's been your biggest eye-opening experience since you've been here?
That's a good question. I would say, for me personally, it was just the community that Wayzata is. I didn't realize how small of a footprint it is, but how big of a impact the city does have on not only just our community, but the surrounding communities. So I think that's been very eye-opening for me, is how much of an impact a small city can make.
Have you made any mistakes yet?
Plenty of mistakes, yeah. But I'm a quick learner, so I've been learning.
Well, I hope Mike's been forgiving.
Yes.
Again, welcome aboard, and we're pleased that you're here, and thanks for making the time with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Just a quick comment. Mike, I'm not sure if you have a Public Works basketball team, but you may want to start one.
Not yet. Someday we're hoping to vie for the softball opportunities, maybe.
Awesome. Tyler, I mean, your list is growing here of things to do. All right, next on the public forum is recognition of Marilee Borg Babcock, most recently Park and Trails Board member and community volunteer extraordinaire. City manager, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I have a short little intro I want to do about Ms. Babcock, and ultimately I'd love for her to, we can get her up to the podium to have her say a few words, and I'm sure the council probably has a few things to say as well. We asked Marilee to come tonight to acknowledge her over a decade of service to the Parks and Trails Board. She was a pioneering member back when it first started over a decade ago. But in addition to all of her work on the Parks and Trails, really leading Parks and Trails, she's done a lot more things. So I'm going to just add to the recognition tonight. It's more than just about Parks and Trails. But starting with Parks and Trails, she was really a driving force behind many initiatives that were parks related, whether through that board or separately. She was a big advocate for preserving the big woods. She worked with the Parks and Trails Board on the maple tree tapping program, which she volunteered hundreds, maybe thousands of hours and her own equipment to help with the community and really educate folks in the community about that process. She was a key force behind the Post Office Park public art and just creating that space and making it more significant for the city. All of the Earth Day events, music in the park, tree giveaways, basically any event, whether it's in a park or around preserving a historic structure, Marilee was heavily involved, probably leading. All the other city-related events, Dig It Day, cleanup days, Marilee was a driving force behind that too, selfishly giving her her volunteer hours to the community. So, and it's not just about parks and trails, although that was key for Mary Lee. It was about preserving our historic buildings, preserving the character of our town, and making sure that we thought things through appropriately. The Bushaway project is a good example of that too. Not
Mary Lee's
necessarily.
fan club is here too, by the way.
Yes, and they're excited too. Bushaway, the project, that was another good example of not necessarily a Parks and Trails initiative or anything like that, but preserving the character of Wayzata through different means, whether it's a transportation corridor, sacred woods in our community, or other ways. Mary Lee really stood for natural resources in the environment, again, historic preservation, and providing her perspective to big transformational community projects where her perspective allowed us to make sure that the projects were right-sized and respected the history and natural environment of the community. And she did this not just for her own perspective, she did it also to educate others. That was a primary component of all the service that she has gifted the city, to educate our community to be better, to understand what historic preservation means, to understand what preserving all that our natural resources have to offer. There's a lot more, and I hope that some of you guys will touch on all the different things that Mary helped out with. But on behalf of staff and the entire city, we're extremely grateful, Mary Lee, for you to serve for so long. This award that we're going to give you is a small token of our appreciation. It means a lot more to us. Your service means a lot more to us than this, but at least it's something to show how much we are deeply grateful and care for you.
Yeah, so before we bring you up here, Mary Lee, for your comments and last word, I want to open up to the council to offer their remarks for your exemplary service, and then we'll have you approach the dais for your award and commentary. So who would like to start?
I'll start, if that's okay.
Councilmember McDonald, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. I was inspired by some of the words that Manager Dahl mentioned about Mary Lee, and I just wanted to extrapolate on those. With some of the history, one of the things I really liked serving with you ever so briefly on Parks and Trails was that oral history you shared with the group. Any little pocket or intersection of town, Mary Lee could tell you what it was, how it got to be what it is. And I just think that's really cool, and you can't find that in print generally somewhere. So it was an incredible experience, just very briefly for myself, to get a sense of what you were really sharing with the community, more so even than just your time and knowledge, but really your experiences and a vision for the community. And I just think that was really special. And I know I'm grateful to know that you've shared that with so many community members. And then, of course, just being grateful for your public service and all your great ideas, too, that you've brought to the city. So thanks.
Amazing. Thank you, council member. Who would like to go next?
I'll jump in.
Okay, go ahead, Alex.
Mary Lee, we've intersected in so many different ways over the years since the first time I ever met you. And I will say that you are the epitome of what a resident in Wayzata should look and aspire to. Not only have you served on various commissions, boards, and so on, but outside of that, you're a volunteer, educator. You're kind of everywhere. You are Wayzata, and your imprint has definitely been felt in this community. I've always enjoyed interacting with you, and I cherish the time you were right out here, and I got that little tiny tree that I so carefully planted back, because I love trees and I love nature. I so carefully put that in place to make sure it was going to grow. As far as I know, it's going to survive the winter, and it'll still be there. No, it's been terrific, and I'm glad that you're here.
Amazing. Go ahead, Councilmember Parkhill.
Mary Lee, we haven't known each other very long, but a couple years ago I did the maple syrup with you, and just sitting out by your fire and talking and being with your wonderful spirit, because you just have this aura about you that's just kind and loving. And, you know, it's just enjoyable to sit out there and spend a few days in March by a fire talking to you. We've also exchanged plants a couple times, and that's kind of fun. She's a fellow phytophile. I just looked up the word, plant lover or horticulturist. So anyway, thank you for all you've done for Wayzata and the friendship that we've shared. Thank you.
Okay. So Marilee, I have a few comments. In the 17 years I've been doing this work, we've crossed paths on numerous projects, initiatives, sometimes spirited debate, but always civil. And your dedication as a volunteer is really commendable, spanning over 30 years of service in various volunteer capacities to the city of Wayzata. And I would say the themes that struck out when you and I had a chance to visit, I think yesterday on the phone, are your commitment to history, the environment, and sustainability. And your impact can be seen across many boards and commissions and volunteer initiatives. Many of them have been mentioned, but I'm just going to tick them off again. The Wayzata Historical Society, now the Lake Minnetonka Historical Society, both as a volunteer and a board member. The City of Wayzata Heritage Preservation Board. Friends of the Big Woods, where you single-handedly champion both a referendum and the preservation of the largest original woods tract left in Wayzata and the greater metro area. The Post Office Pocket Park, which I'll talk about in a second. A longtime planning commissioner member. You were the founding member and where I served with you on the Park and Trails Task Force back in 2011. You were the first and founding member of the reconstituted Park and Trails Board 2012 to present, which brought you here tonight. But I think it's becoming very clear that your service is well beyond the Park and Trails Board. The Bushaway Road Task Force, saving the city of Wayzata from a 4-lane highway to a 1-lane, saving hundreds of trees, and then numerous times as an election job. So it's safe to say your leadership and contributions have left a lasting mark on our city and showing you as a true champion of community betterment. But I wanted to amplify some of the things that you got done while you were serving on all those different boards. So some of the more notable projects that Marilee has been a part of include establishing the museum at the depot, which we take for granted now. It used to be, I think, storage for the city, embarrassingly, but it now has a museum in it that's active at all times. You, with Irene Stemmer, rest her soul, championed the HPB Centennial House Awards and got that going. I already talked about the Big Woods, which was not only preservation of the landscape and the trees, but also this notable house, the Arno House and the Senecal property, which now is a retreat center, which would have probably gone away without your championing to save it. Organizing and implementing programs to help promote and maintain the Big Woods. So not only did you preserve it, but you organized countless volunteers to go prune it and cut down invasive species, and garlic mustard, which made you popular and unpopular in some circles. Buckthorn, you spearheaded enhancements to the Post Office Pocket Park and promoted that gem, which was originally a gift from Judy, Lucy, and Ken Dayton in the mid-90s. And most people don't know this, but you and I visited about it. It was designed by a world-renowned designer, Siha Armajani. And he's known around the world, probably most notably for designing the Olympic torch in 1996 in Atlanta. And he designed this beautiful little pocket park here in our town, and you championed it. Let's see what else. I mean, the list is so long. She also was a champion of establishing the Little Beach next to the sailing center. The Maple Tree Tapping Program, which we already talked about. The Earth Day Tree Program, which is now known as Arbor Day. And maybe most notable to me, and these are your words, not mine, you are a self-proclaimed and proud tree hugger. And for Marilee, what I would say that how I would characterize you, you're one of those people whose actions speak louder than their words. I think I'm going to quote Ben Franklin, and he said, "A well-done job is better than a well-said job." And actions speak louder than words, and for Marilee, you practice letting your words teach and your actions speak. And I want to thank you on behalf of the city for your 30 years of service. And now you can accept your award and have the last word, Marilee. Thank you.
One little addition, Mr. Mayor, the Centennial Award from the HPB, she's also an artist and designed and created the images or the paintings of the homes, the drawings, thank you, which is incredible as well. So Marilee, I'd like to give you this award that recognizes your service on the Parks and Trails Board as a pioneer. But as we said tonight, there's so much more than that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you. First, I'd like to say congratulations to Andrew for becoming mayor, winning the election. And second of all, I'd like to acknowledge Alex Plekish for your new state, what is the exact title?
The party chairman of the Republican Party.
Party chairman. Congratulations to you also. Well, I just have a small, something that I'd like to do, because I certainly would be unable to do any of this by myself. So I have a list, and I'm sure that I've forgotten many, many people, but I have a list of all the people who have supported, helped in some way, and you're not going to find their name on a plaque. These are just the regular people that are in any one of these neighborhoods around town. And so I'd like to mention these people who have helped to make all of this possible. And first of all, I'm going to talk about Chuck Schoen, who was the one that got me involved with the Historical Society. But this was something that my father started in 1981, and it ended up, coming to fruition in 1982, the month that he died. And he also was the founding member of the Wayzata Country Club. So he is the one that inspired me to go forward and push a lot of this stuff that a lot of people thought was a little crazy, but that's okay. Chuck Schoen asked me to be membership chair of the Wayzata Historical Society. We had 150 members at that time, and he challenged me to get 500. Well, I did it. Because we had I put together a number of incentives. The first Minnehaha boat tour around Wayzata Bay, and Donnie Scanlon drove us around, and I brought Jim Oglin, James Wire, Mary Ellen Gee to talk about the different areas around the lake so we could have a great, adventure there and let people know what was going on. Other incentives over the 3 years, we put together a number of calendars for the history of Wayzata, and we handed those out as membership incentives, and this was with Lynn Gruber and Phil Little, and Keith Waters was a donor to some of those. Jack Amdahl, Mary Brown, Heidi Backstrom, Sue Sorrentino, Joni Holst, and a number of others wrote on these, wrote the history on these. When I became president of the Wayzata Historical Society, the depot was being used, as Andrew said, as a storage area for the Chile Open equipment. We were lucky, though, that that's what the city did. We were lucky that they didn't turn it into a coffee shop or something like that, because all of the original stuff was still there, and it was still in beautiful shape. So we're very fortunate to have that building. And when I became president in 2000, the board decided we had 3 initiatives. One was to put together the timeline that talks about Wayzata and what was happening around the country and the world at that time when Wayzata was just forming. Saving the Senecal Big Woods. We had the tenacity to take that on and to champion a new fundraiser with Bernie Klein, who was, now I want you to write all of these names down, you guys, because I want, when you see some of these people, I want you to thank them for all the stuff that they've done. Because like I said, their name is not on any plaque, on any scroll, on any rock, or any railing.
Now it's on TV, though.
Well, right, but not everybody will see it. Anyhow, so I want to thank Becca. So then came the Senecal Big Woods. And this was kind of serendipity, and it was Becca Nash, who was working for TPL, the Trust for Public Land at that time, and she gave me a call. And I had just read something called Embrace Open Space that talked about individuals could save tracts of land. So, being the idiot that I am, I thought, yeah, let's go for it. So, we started with 3 people. We ended up with, I just counted my list today, there were 163 people on this list. And my thanks to Becca Nash, and my thanks to Susan Schmidt and Bob McElvery of TPL. And because they saved not only the tract of land, but the Arnold building. And I'd also like to thank John Curtis, who is a wonderful, wonderful neighbor to us. He has the inside of the donut. Our park is on the outside. So we are very lucky to have him there. So during all of this, we had people that went around and, delivered flyers to all the houses to let people know. There were a lot of people that got involved that were really sorry that they got involved, but, Joan Milikowski, Sandy Harvey did a lot of writing for the newsletter that they sent out. Dick Flint and Bob Giswald were legal counsel to what we were doing. We had a number of newspaper articles and letters to the editors written by Mary Bader and Patty Giswald. Early fundraising was done by Mary Plant, Steve and Jody Poling, and following by fundraisers from TPL and Wendy Dayton. Other leaders during this were Phil Harder, Dick Howell, and Dick Harmon. I don't think any of those people are still with us today, and Grant Merritt and his knowledge on preservation. So, anyhow, when we were saving the big woods, a number of people on the city council were not happy with us. And they were going to, we had a tie vote, a 2-2 vote. And we were able to break that tie by Bob Ambrose flying back into town. Joe McCarthy picked him up from the airport, and he flew back into town to make sure that we didn't have the tie vote. So I think this was for the referendum that we had. So I thank Bob Ambrose for doing this. Then we talked about Irene Stemmer, Judy Starkey, who are both, charter members of the Heritage Preservation Board, and Irene wrote a lot of history on many of the parks, which is very interesting if you like history. But at least we've got it, we've got the information there because Irene is no longer with us either. Thanks to the people who volunteered to do the planting at the post office park. I have wonderful photos of so many of these people, but they're never used in our newsletters or on our website, which I think is unfortunate. So I'm going to name a bunch of these people. Lynn McCarthy, but Lynn McCarthy is there all the time. She brings coffee, she does the plantings, Jan and Dennis Hyman, Christine Halverson, Laura Merriam, Debbie and Tom Vanderheiden, Joni Cunningham, Bridget and Jason Anderson, Kathy Dorr, Kathy Jones, Mary Bader, Joanna McCarthy and her parents, Linda Minnick, Linda Sleeper, Holly Evans, Bennett Myron, Sarah Randolph, Sarah Showalter, Banaka, where am I? Jensen, Peter Hitch, Ann LaFrance, and Bruce Mary, Ted and Terry and Tim Foster, Sandy Harvey, Kate Studebaker, Sue Dostal, Tori and Kelsey. I never pronounce it right. Schenkel and John Erickson and his wife. So many of these people also planted the bulbs at the city hall, up here when we got donated bulbs, and also participate in Pull It and Dig It, which was Lynn McCarthy and Pat Broyles. I was never in charge of that. I was just a grunt on the job, and that was it. So let's give credit where it's due. So many of these same, people pulled garlic mustard, plus Cargill was very influential in bringing people in, and so that was also wonderful. They were brought into the big woods. Then I also appreciate the team of volunteers who cleaned up the little beach. It was pretty trashy before they rolled in the new pier with the chairs. And that was Lynn McCarthy, Ellie Ansari, and her husband, Jim McWethy, and a team of others that Lynn McCarthy enlisted to help. And may I also thank Jack Amdahl. So I talked to him. I'd heard that McCormick's was trying to put together a rolling cart for food down at the beach. And it wasn't going to work because it couldn't be covered. There was some problems. So I talked to Jack Amdahl, and I said, Jack, do you think we have a big enough space? He went down to the beach house. He measured the cement blocks and said, I think we can do this. And so he accompanied me in to talk to Jim McCormick to get this done. And then with the city, the two of them made this happen. And with our big woods, a lot of people have helped with the buckthorn, but it's been Lynn McCarthy who has really been the person who has done most of this. She would call the coach at Wayzata High School every year and get the football team in the spring to come and help pull the buckthorn. We thought, this would be good, then when they get back into practice, they're going to have better muscles because they're kind of slacking off all winter. But Lynn McCarthy did that, and so we were able to do that. Joel Papa is one that always went around and took all the photographs. We have so many photographs of all of this. And finally, our editor-in-chief, from the plaque on the railroad history to the brochure to the general maintenance plan, letters to the editor and council member who suggested forming a Parks and Trails Board because she said, Marilee, you can't keep doing this on your own. We've got to have something that's a little bit more official. Mary Bader, she was the spearhead of all of this. So of all of these people, I'm sure that I've forgotten. Oh, I did forget. I must have missed a page here. Sorry about that. When we were doing the big woods and we would get all of these high school kids in, we'd get a whole crowd. And so what I did is I got leaders, and I get 4 leaders at a time. And on these leaders, I just want to read their names. It was Joel Papa, Tom Paps, Bill Berneking, Dan Goodmanson, John Berryhill, Joe McCarthy, Dan Goodmanson, Jack Amdahl, and Bob Ambrose. And these are the people that would kind of take groups to different areas. And we'd walk, first of all, and we'd decide what those areas were. So that's kind of it for my big list. But like I said, all of these people don't have their names on plaques. They don't have their names on railings or anything like that. And so they are the ones that made this all happen. I could never have done this on my own. So This is a wonderful plaque and everything like that, but it's these people that really deserve so much credit. I mean, this town is so lucky to have all of these people. My father always said to make this a better place. Make your community a better place to live in by what you contribute. So I've tried to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilee.
And thank you for your patience.
You bet, Marilee. You more than deserve it. Okay, City Manager, do we have anybody waiting on Teams?
Madam, Mr. Mayor,
Madam,
we do
Mr.
not.
Oh, you owe me money.
I know. Mr. Mayor, we do not.
Okay, great. So we have two individuals that would like to speak in the public forum. So we'll give them their due first. We have Jeff Anacino first. If you would come to the podium. Okay, you're going to defer to Chris. So Chris Hickok, could you please address? And if you wouldn't mind just stating your name and your address and what you'd like to speak about.
My name is Chris Hickok. I live at 213 Walker Avenue South, so just around the corner here. Mayor, council, city manager, and staff. Mike, nice to see you. I'm here just to make some comments on the 641 Lake Street proposed development. I've been contacted by a number of the neighbors to the east, to the north, and to the west. Most of them are, but there's a lot of snowbirds within that group. There's about 40 homeowners that are in that neighborhood, and a lot of people are traveling. I'm here, so I ended up being the mouthpiece. But just 3 points I wanted to make. Everyone was very surprised to hear about this development. It just kind of came online within the last couple weeks, plus it's been in the works since like last summer, August-ish. And I've been involved with a lot of developments in town, and that's kind of a new thing for sure. The second one is, and the third is kind of related, but is people are talking about their loss of sight line or view corridors to the lake, which I know has been a big topic in the city. And then the third one is there's a precedent from buildings, it's not written, but all the feeder streets into Lake Street from Minnetonka over to Barry or Broadway as well have, the feeder buildings have a side street setback to, I think that the purpose of that was to avoid a tunnel effect into Lake Street, and that doesn't exist here. So I just want to throw out those 3 items for your consideration. I appreciate the time tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you want to go next, Jeff? Okay, please, and just state your name and your address, and please.
Thank you, Mayor. Jeff Anacino. I live at 253 Lake Street East. We are the tenant in 308 Walker Avenue South. We will be directly impacted by the new project. We'll lose probably 100% of our southerly view of the lake and a majority of our western view of the lake. I want to thank Chris for his leadership, just representing the neighborhood, and thank you and the city manager for meeting with us last week, and also the Karishes who we met with yesterday. We are, I'm new to town. I've only been here for about 2.5 years. So I think over that time, I've learned the importance that everyone in the city has for the downtown Lake District. And it's, I guess, disappointing to learn about a project of such magnitude so late in the process, and hoping that you know there's more consideration given for the project, as we understand it's not quite approved yet, and some of the points that Chris made tonight about the sidelines. And thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you both. Appreciate you stepping up and offering commentary. This was going to be part of our city manager's report, but rather than wait till the end of the meeting, just if we could perhaps just pull that and offer some commentaries while these two gentlemen are here and for council. So city manager, if you wouldn't mind responding.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just to summarize the project, it's essentially tearing down the the oldest component on the west side of the 600 block of the Karish building. So we refer to it as like the Caribou space. It's that oldest part of the building that the property owner is intending to rebuild, similar footprint, but just an more up-to-date space that they can market appropriately. Still 2 stories, similar footprint, a little bit taller, I think 5-ish feet taller or something like that. The uniqueness of this project is that because the design didn't trip any needed development approvals, and it was a smaller component of a larger building, there is no development process where it needs to go through the Planning Commission and or the City Council. And that is why there hasn't been any type of official legal notification or anything like there would normally be for a new development that's asking for approval. So that's why staff has been working on it for several months now. The building permit is not approved yet. Despite that, the design and everything is on our website, so folks can take a look at what is being proposed. Ultimately, building permits that are improved are we get notification of those in our Wayzata Weekly, which is distributed to a lot of residents. So that's kind of a summary, the background. As I think Mr. Hickok mentioned, we did have a meeting, and we have linked the concerned residents and community members with the property owners to have a dialogue about what their concerns are and if they're able to accommodate or mitigate any of them. So that's where it stands at this point in time. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, questions of staff by council on this topic? Okay, I just would like to, thank Chris and Jeff for bringing this forward in the public forum. Just to state in the record, we did reference it at last week's council meeting. It has been communicated to all council in a full brief, as well as our planning commission. And, we did have a chance to sit down and meet. I respect and understand your concerns, and I think they're valid. And as city manager articulated, we're hopeful that through dialogue with the developer that some or may be mitigated. And this is an open forum, and we encourage folks to use the public forum as they see fit, rather, to comment on this. But it is, as would any applicant of this kind, be considered administratively. So that's where it's at, and thank you for coming. So with that, we'll move on to new agenda items. So does anyone have any new agenda items to discuss or bring up on council here? Okay, hearing none. The next item is 7, the consent agenda. We're going to review approval of the consent agenda. On the consent agenda tonight is approval of the check register, approval of municipal licenses, authorization of mayor and city manager to execute an engagement letter with LB Carlson for fiscal year 2024 auditing services, approval of second reading of adoption ordinance 846, amending chapters 920 and 955 of the Wayzata zoning ordinance to address home design, as well as I believe there's a tweak to, that's next. Approval of the second reading and adoption of ordinance 847, amending the design standards of chapter 909, which is commercial. Approval of statement of work with Loeffler for virtual chief information security officer VCISO, cybersecurity services, and approval of consent to plat and approval of assignment and assumption of the development agreement for Meyer Place at Ferndale, 222 Ferndale Avenue South. So does anyone on council want to pull any of those items from the consent agenda? Okay, so I would accept a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. We're next up on new business. First on our new business is consider approval of Wayzata Yacht Club request to modify the slip configuration at the Wayzata Yacht Club at 1100 Eastman Lane. City manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director Kelly is going to take this item.
Thank you, Jeff, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Before you tonight, we have a somewhat unique agenda item. Typically, and as mentioned on the agenda, we would look for approval. As I mentioned in my memo, the Yacht Club has presented us with a request to do a modification to their slip configuration. Why isn't it going? There we go. There we go. As we all know, the Yacht Club sits on Eastman Lane on the east side of our downtown. The request before us tonight, I don't know if this doesn't want to go. Mind just advancing for me? Thank you. The request before us tonight, the Yacht Club is looking to modify up to 12 of their buoys, which are circled down in the bottom right-hand corner, with physical slips attached to the docks, which you can see highlighted in red. If you could move forward to the next slide, please. As I mentioned, this process is somewhat different than most. Back in 2012, as part of a PUD amendment, the City Council at that time laid out an approval process both for the land use potential changes for this site, as well as highlighted marina configuration. The marina configuration is spelled out in our Resolution 12/2012, and if you could go to the next slide. In Resolution 12/2012, it mentions that the approved amount of slips is 186, and then goes on to talk about if there wants to be modification, the following process pertains. The applicant shall notify the city in writing and come to a city council. They have provided that written notification and are here tonight to answer any questions that you might have following my presentation. And that the council shall review the request and provide comments. It's not necessarily an approval, but provide comments on their application. Those comments will then be documented in a formal letter back to the Wayzata Yacht Club, which they will include in their application to the LMCD. A couple things that I want to clarify, and you can move on to the next slide. Thank you. Again, they've provided us with that writing, notification in writing. There is no proposed change to the number of slips, no increase, decrease. We've looked at this plan. We don't see any land use impacts to this request. That's why they're following this particular process. There is a much broader process if they were asking for land use changes. I don't believe that the slip modifications are going to have an adverse impact. In fact, if we went back to, and I'm not going to ask Aurora to go back, but per that site plan, I believe their footprint on the lake is actually getting a little bit smaller and might have less of an impact to the lake. So I've provided a couple potential comments that you might consider tonight. Those being the proposed slip modifications maintain the allowable number of slips, 186, per our resolution, and that it doesn't have any impact or significant impact on our land use. Secondly, the proposed location appears to fit well with the existing dock structures, and I might even add, and minimizes the footprint of the lake. If you have additional comments, we would take those and document those this evening. We do have a couple members of the Yacht Club here tonight to answer any questions that you might have, and based on that, our recommendation would be to relay any comments to staff on behalf of the City Council, and we will forward those on to the LMC, to the Yacht Club for then forwarding to the LMCD. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Yeah, questions of staff, and then if the applicant wants to make comments after the questions, then we'll give you that chance, but questions of staff from council at this point. Okay, I just have one comment for context. So I actually was serving as a council member back in 11 and 12, and just to add a little more context for why this was written the way it was. So the Sailing Center and the Yacht Club, have a combined land use around the use of that property. And the triggering event for this is the correlation between more boat slips equals more parking equals more impact to the neighborhood. And therefore, at the time, we added this as an additional step that is not customary of applicants, but was agreed to by the Yacht Club and the Sailing Center to say that anytime there was a material change to their BSUs, and as long as it wasn't going beyond 186, which it's not, If it did go beyond 186, then that triggers a whole separate process, but it just gives us a chance to offer any comments around our concerns about the impact of BSUs to land use and/or parking and/or impact to the neighborhood. And so that's the context for this. As staff articulated, they don't see any concerns. They're not even coming close to the 186, and they're simply taking floating buoys and moving them to fixed docks. So that's just for context. I just lived through that 3 years of my life, Jonathan. You and I were sitting in this room for hundreds of hours for 3 years, and it was interesting, but that's where we landed. So with that, I guess if there's no other questions of council, we'd give the applicant a chance to offer any comments. You don't have to. It's certainly at your discretion if you want to offer comments. So I leave the floor to you if you choose to or not. Yeah, if you just introduce yourself and give your address, Mr. McDonough.
Yep, I'm Jonathan McDonough. I live at 115 Mattis Lane, Golden Valley. I'm on the board of the Wayzata Yacht Club. I don't really have any comments. I think that you've covered it quite nicely. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions of the applicant? Okay, no questions. Oh, go ahead.
Just one. I mean, I think this looks perfectly fine, but I'm kind of curious why the original plan didn't include these docks, because it makes more sense to me to be this way.
The docks just didn't exist at that time, and we didn't have a need for them, and now most people don't want to be on a buoy anymore and would rather be at a dock, so we've seen kind of an interest for that, so that's why we're moving over that way.
Okay, another question of council here.
Yeah, has there been any discussion with neighbors, sailing school about this, any type of feedback?
We've talked to the sailing school. They seem fine with it. We have not approached any of the neighbors at this point. That generally happens when we apply to the LMCD.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so no further questions. I guess now we would give staff any feedback on, do we like the comments that Mike has proposed that would run with this application, or I guess would be forwarded to the LMCD as they review the application for the change? Would anyone, are we comfortable with what staff's proposed? Does anyone want to tweak it or make any adjustments?
I'm comfortable personally with Director Kelly's comments.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, so.
One thing we could add is safety. I think it's safer to have the use slips versus.
Buoys, yeah, everyone comfortable with that? Okay, Mike, do you have that as a noted comment?
I do.
Okay,
And less dinghy storage.
right. So if there's no further questions or comments, I would accept a motion to approve the Wayzata Yacht Club's request to modify slip configuration at 1100 Eastman Lane.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
A second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. The motion passes. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
McDonough. Next on our agenda is the presentation of the 2024 annual report. We're on item 8B for those following along. Turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So tonight, we have for you the 2024 annual report. At the beginning of the year, we like to kind of recap the previous year and celebrate all that the council, staff, and the community accomplished. It's still in draft form, so after, we're presenting, there's no real action to take, but if the council has any questions or edits you would like us to make, we're happy to make those before we really kind of publicly unveil it out in social media and other forms. So we're gonna tag team this presentation between myself and Deputy City Manager Yeager. I'll start, hand it off to Ms. Yeager, and then I'll finish. So the first part of the report, and just before I start, we have a PDF document that's very thoughtful and well put together that looks better on paper, and we'll distribute that as well. Our amazing, incredible staff, communication staff, Liv Marandino, put together this story map. And last year, our first year we tried to do it, we had some AV issues. So tonight we're happy to actually walk through it without, knock on wood, any AV issues. I think you'll be pretty impressed. So the first part of this is just recognizing, it starts with the communication from myself and the mayor, talking about how proud we are of our community, reiterating another successful year, and mentioning the overall vision of the city, of this organization, which is really to enhance everybody's quality of life while preserving the character as a thriving lakeside village to live, work, shop, and play. You know, that distinguishing factor of our residents, but also all their communities as well. And obviously, despite our small size, we do strive to maintain a superior and well-recognized level of service excellence we strive for in our operations that we provide to all of our residents and community members. In this, we emphasize, especially with Mayor Mullen, wanting to focus on, and we all agree, really our commitment to our residents and that second goal, which is in our strategic plan of diversifying revenue and really taking that burden or finding other ways to fund all of our services that we provide, not completely reliant on property taxes. So looking at other sources, hopefully coming from users and visitors to the community. That's going to be it has been a major focus back in 2024 and will continue to be a focus. So the big, I think the highlight of the year, you know, we're going to go through all the accomplishments, but the big highlight of the year was the Lake Walk, opened on July 13th. It's been in the works for many, many years, over 100 years, and more specifically with this addition, over a decade. This has really been the cornerstone, the crown jewel of the Panaway project. And it really included many city partners, not only just this council, previous councils, but many community members, including the Wayzata Conservancy, for making this decades-long project come to fruition, and really celebrating giving complete access to our most treasured asset, Lake Minnetonka. And to note on this was all constructed with funds outside of the general fund, meaning the taxpayers' dollars did not go up to fund this project. This was funded by Conservancy, the state of Minnesota, and city redevelopment and restricted TIF dollars, which we're very proud of. With that, Director Yeager is going to talk more specifically about accomplishments of our diverse departments.
I'll make this brief. Mayor and Council, there's obviously a lot of highlights in the actual annual report. I'll just touch on a couple to shine a light on the work that different departments are doing in the city, and then obviously would direct people to read the annual report, check it out online. That's a great source to learn a little bit more. So in our administration department, a couple of things I wanted to highlight is two things. One, that we launched a new recruitment and onboarding software, which may seem not too exciting to the resident, but since we've launched it, we've seen the number of job applications increase 69%. So we really see this is a way that we're going to get the best talent to Wayzata. And other than that, I want to highlight our amazing DMV operation. They continue to have like one of the highest Google star ratings ever, and we continue to get feedback from people of, wow, I was surprised I had such a great experience at the DMV. So kudos to them for continuing to do a great job. Next, I want to highlight Public Works. Again, this is often an unseen department, but a couple of really cool projects that they took on over the last year. One, they started a years-long water meter replacement project, so they're going to touch a lot of houses in the city to replace water meters. And I also want to talk about all the tree work that they've been doing, from planting new trees to getting a bunch of funding towards tree maintenance that's non-tax dollars, that comes from our tree ordinance and grants. And they've distributed over 50 potted native trees, so a lot of work to preserve the tree canopy and invest in our trees. In community development, we continue to see active redevelopment in this community. So last year, they issued over 600 permits with a total construction value of over $79 million. So not only are we, bringing money into this community through redevelopment, but they're also very active in applying for grants. In just the last 3 years, the city has been awarded 18 grants that total over $800,000. So great kudos to that staff for seeking out those opportunities for the city. In our public safety departments, there's a lot we could highlight here. Some that I just want to talk about the workload. In our fire department, they answered over 329 calls, and the police department answered over 9,400 calls in the last year. So both really active departments there. And then other than that, I do want to highlight the work in the fire department. You may hear of a lot of places that have paid on-call firefighters struggling to recruit, and they've really been taking an active stance on this in the last couple of years and onboarded 3 new firefighters. We're up to 29, whereas a couple of years ago we had only 22. So that's a great sign from folks in our community stepping up to join the fire department. And then talking about the muni, so that's both our municipal liquor store and our bar and grill operation. A couple of things I want to highlight there. First is on the bar and grill side. They've launched several new menu programs. I think Jeff will highlight that again later. But in general, I just want the message back to the community to be that these businesses are run very well, and that helps save money on our tax levy. It keeps our property taxes lower, and the revenue they generate goes towards other future capital projects. So in the last year, again, this is preliminary and not audited, but made about $503,000 back to the city across those 2 businesses. So I want to highlight just the impact that they have on our community and what a better place we're in because of those businesses. Over to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Director Yeager. This is dying of battery. Okay, I just want to highlight a few kind of stories that serve as a good example of our successful and diverse departments. First off is our bar and grill. Director Yeager mentioned some new menus. This past year, we launched 3 menus. One is our Sunday brunch. First time in a long time we've actually served breakfast food. We've launched a happy hour in the afternoon. That's been wildly successful, and some premium cocktails. So we're no longer just a place for a rum and Coke or a Bud Light. We've got some really diverse cocktails that come and go with the seasons. I encourage everybody who are interested to try them out. They're amazing. Next item that highlights our public safety teams. Sergeant Jason Gurman received an award for the search and rescue work that he does with our canine Loki. He's used the Loki to find many children and other folks that go missing. He's used and recognized regionally. He gets a call out and he'll go wherever he's needed. He also uses it for Wayzata and our public safety services as well. So it was great that he was recognized for that, and many communities within the state are actually copying or utilizing this approach to search and rescue and doing it themselves as well. Next, we have just another way to engage the community, and we're going to be doing that more this year, but we had our first separate State of the City event. Typically those were more chamber activities. We wanted to do something that was more focused for residents. So last year we did that for the first time, and I think it was successful just because we had a packed house, and I think everyone enjoyed the event. More recently, our Panway project was awarded the Structural Facility of the Year award by the APWA at the APWA conference, and by that entity. You can see the picture there. I don't know, I must have been having a bad day or something. I don't know, I can't smile. But kudos to Mike Kelly and his team, because it really represents the innovative construction that the community and the design team put together, and it's quite an impressive structure that's built to last. In terms of just our personnel, our great team that we have, who I'm incredibly proud of, we saw a picture of the Public Works team. They, for the first time, we had 2 citywide awards that folks could apply to or apply for that really had to embody our 4 core values: teamwork, responsiveness, friendliness, and excellence. Our individual award was Kathy Learvig, our city clerk. Anybody that knows Kathy knows that she's well deserving of this award for all that she does and how she does it for the organization and the community. And our team award went to Public Works for the great work they do. They care, they're responsive, they're professional, and they're around at all hours, providing the services and keeping our city clean, safe, and well-run. So that was the first year. We will continue to do that in future years as well. From a Parks and Recreation perspective, in addition to the Lake Walk, Bell Courts opened up, wildly successful. It's very well utilized. We have 4 pickleball courts now, in addition to overhauled tennis courts. And an important note there is that a lion's share of that project was paid out of grant dollars. So kudos to Nick Keyser, our parks planner, the Parks and Trails Board, and everybody that was involved in putting that project together. Wildly successful, and most of it was paid out of grant funds. Solar panels at the Muni were finally completed in 2024. They're at our Muni, City Hall, Library, Fire Department, and Public Works. They're saving us money, and it's setting the example to be sustainable and preserve the environment and control our carbon footprint. Lastly, hard not to smile at this. Deputy City Manager Yeager mentioned our fire department and how grateful we are to have a full volunteer fire department when so many others are struggling. I think one of the reasons why they haven't had an issue recruiting is just the culture there. They really do give back a lot, and this is a great example of our fire department on their volunteers going out to our community delivering gifts to our seniors that may not get a gift from somebody else or may just want to see and talk with somebody. So what a great example of our team, and all these examples show the diversity, show all our values that they represent. And I know I speak on behalf of the organization. We're incredibly proud of what we've accomplished and grateful for the council's leadership and providing the support we need. And I hope the community appreciates that. I know they do, and we're just grateful to be in this community. And 2025 is a new year, new council, new opportunities, new challenges. We're looking forward to launching new engagement initiatives, and also, as I mentioned before, continuing to explore ways to reduce the dependency on local property taxes as our primary funding source. We do strive to accomplish even more and serve our residents at the highest level. We will not rest on our laurels. Again, after any comments from the council, we'll make sure that this is sent out publicly on our website, social media, so we can show it off and show all that we've accomplished and ultimately let folks know what we're working on in the next year. So thanks for your time, and happy to answer any questions about the data in the report. And again, thanks to Liv Marandino for all her hard work.
So questions of staff or comments on the report before it gets released publicly? We got the preview tonight, but comments or questions of staff?
Great job, you guys. Really wonderful.
Yeah, I think it was a wonderful job. First time I've seen it. It's very robust, and I look forward to getting it out in the public domain and seeing what reaction we get to it. Okay, so is that the direction you needed?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
All right,
it.
so next on the agenda is the city manager's report. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. 2 things. Some exciting news. Okay. It's going to be a quick city manager and public works update, I think.
Okay.
2 quick things for me. One is great news. We got a substantial check, $100,000 from the Conservancy to help fund the Academy. We've been, it's been a topic of discussion for the past couple months, and that part of the project is funded. So thank you, Conservancy, for coming through with that. Grateful for their service and providing those funds for a premier and higher level of finish on our public amenity like that. Next is just a reminder for Chili Open. Talked to President Pearson from the Chamber today. They're planning on a full, they're planning on an event without any limitations, but obviously they'll work with our public safety folks, the sheriff's office, to make sure that they can have everything at full blast. But ultimately, the fun starts on Friday in the evening with their pre-party. Then Saturday is the big event. It starts at 9 a.m. with yoga outside in the snow. I'll see you guys all there. I'll be there. We'll do a public meeting notice. We'll get it covered so we can all be there. And then at 10 a.m., the fun starts with the golf through the afternoon. And during that time, there's going to be, of course, the chili cook-off, which our Muni is participating in again, and hopefully we'll bring home, I don't know if they do a trophy or not, but bring home whatever they're giving, because I know Dino in the kitchen works very hard to make the chili just right so we can win. That's all I have.
Thanks, Jeff. Two quick things. Mayor Lee grabbed me on her way out. In her wonderful speech, she forgot to mention that, as always, she is trying to promote maple tree tapping again this year. So she just wants people to pay attention to any upcoming communication on that. So I want to make sure that that was said on her behalf. Secondly, I want to give a big shout out to our Public Works team. With the warm weather that we had last week, it was a big pain. They resurrected the rink and it was opened for use again this evening. So well done, Public Works team. I'm hoping the weather holds out. We're already about 5 times longer than we were last year.
Bar was pretty low, Mike.
Yeah, so last year the bar was set at 8 days. We're way past that. So I just wanted to shout out to the Public Works and let everybody know the rink is reopened.
Okay. Any questions of Public Works or City Manager? I just have one comment. It was just reflecting when I was writing my column for the newsletter, how fortunate we are to have Wayzata Crime Coalition, Second Call, Wayzata Conservancy, Wayzata Legion, Wayzata Lions, all contributing funds to, for public safety, for public amenities. And I just don't think we lift them up enough. And I know there was some discussion late in the year about the Conservancy's, efforts and whatnot. And as they promised, they delivered exactly what they promised. And I've been told by Chair Sandvold that another little bit amount of money is coming to true up that $120,000 commitment as they stated. So it's great to see them follow through on that. I never had a doubt, but here we go. And that's my only comment. So thank you. With that, I would accept a motion to conclude tonight's meeting. Adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. The meeting's closed.